Boxing is an activity in which each of two men, by delivering a series of repeated sharp blows to the head, attempts to render the other senseless, leaving him lying on the floor unable to act rationally, defend himself, or even stand up. If one of the two men is knocked down and beaten into an only partially blank and helpless mental state, the other is made to stand aside and the contest is halted momentarily while the damaged man regains just enough strength to stand up and have the beating continue, to the point where he is again lying on the floor, this time completely immobile and functionless. Afterward, the two men embrace in a display of good sportsmanship.
Hi, Billy. I'm Uncle John. I came up to say good night. You remember your Uncle John, don't you? You remember the time I took you down to the beach and we set the hot dog stand on fire and 3 people died? Wasn't that fun? Remember running away from the police and how we hid in the sewer and Uncle John got poo-poo all over him and he wiped it on your coat? You remember? Then I took you to the bar and got drunk and vomited on the jukebox. And sparks started flying out of the jukebox and a fire started and all the people were screaming. Remember that? Remember the screaming and the ambulances? Wasn't that fun? And do you remember that other time, the time I took you to the circus? The lion got loose and ate a monkey. Remember? Wasn't that fun? And then they had to kill the lion, and the monkeys got real sad, so they had to kill the monkeys, too. Wasn't that great? And then the man fell off the trapeze and smashed into the ground, and they had to kill him. And all the other trapeze people got real sad, and they had to kill them, too. Huh? Wasn't that fun? Why are you crying, Billy? Please don't cry. Please, if you stop crying, I'll take you to the rodeo. Wouldn't that be fun? Maybe someone will get trampled or gored. They got horses and cows, too, you know. Maybe they'll have to kill a horsey or a cow. And if they kill a cow, maybe we'll get to eat him in a hamburger. Wouldn't that be fun? Please don't cry. Hey, you remember the time you fell out of my car? Huh? Remember you were looking out the window and we went around a corner real fast to keep from hitting that lady and you went flying out the window and hit the pole head first. And the doctor had to sew your head up with a big needle. I got a boat now, Billy. You want to go out on my boat? I promise I'll be careful. Are you asleep yet? Billy, please stop crying.
This is about redundancies, and it's called Count the Superfluous Redundant Pleonastic Tautologies. My fellow countrymen, I speak to you as co-equals, knowing you are deserving of the honest truth. And let me warn you in advance, my subject matter concerns a serious crisis caused by an event in my past history, the execution-style killing of a security guard on a delivery truck. At that particular point in time, I found myself in a deep depression, making mental errors, which seemed as though they might threaten my future plans. I am not over-exaggerating. I needed a new beginning, so I decided to pay a social visit to a personal friend with whom I share the same mutual objectives and who is one of the most unique individuals I have ever personally met. The end result was an unexpected surprise. When I reiterated again to her the fact that I needed a fresh start, she said I was exactly right, and as an added plus, she came up with a final solution that was absolutely perfect. Based on her past experience, she felt we needed to join together in a common bond for a combined total of 24 hours a day in order to find some new initiatives. What a novel innovation! And as an extra bonus, she presented me with the free gift of a tuna fish. Right away, I noticed an immediate positive improvement, and although my recovery is not totally complete, the sum total is I feel much better now, knowing I am not uniquely alone. Hello. We're the ones who control your lives. We make the decisions that affect all of you. Isn't it interesting to know that those who run your lives would have the nerve to tell you about it in this manner? Suffer, you fools. We know everything you do, and we know where you go. What do you think the cameras are for? And the global positioning satellites? And the social security numbers? You belong to us. And it can't be changed. Sign your petitions, walk your picket lines, bring your lawsuits, cast your votes, and write those stupid letters to whomever you please. You won't change a thing. Because we control your lives, and we have plans for you. Go back to sleep. It came from out of the sky. I find it discouraging and a bit depressing when I notice the unequal treatment afforded by the media to UFO believers on the one hand, and on the other, to those who believe in an invisible supreme being who inhabits the sky, especially as the latter belief applies to the whole Jesus Messiah Son of God fable. You may have noticed that in the media, UFO believers are usually referred to as buffs, a term used to diminish and marginalize them by relegating them to the ranks of hobbyists and mere enthusiasts. They're made to seem like kooks and quaint dingbats who have the nerve to believe that in an observable universe of trillions upon trillions of stars, and most likely many hundreds of billions of potentially inhabitable planets, some of those planets may have produced life forms capable of doing things that we can't do. What nerve! On the other hand, those who believe in an eternal, all-powerful being, a being who demands to be loved and adored unconditionally, and who punishes and rewards according to his whims, are thought to be worthy, upright, credible people. This, in spite of the large numbers of believers who are clearly close-minded fanatics. To my way of thinking, there is every bit as much evidence for the existence of UFOs as there is for the existence of God. Probably far more. At least in the case of UFOs, there have been countless taped and filmed and, by the way, unexplained sightings from all over the world, along with documented radar evidence seen by experienced military and civilian radar operators. This does not even begin to include the widespread testimony of not only highly trained, experienced military and civilian pilots who are selected for their jobs in part for their above-average eyesight and mental stability, but also of equally well-trained, experienced law enforcement officers. Such pilots and law enforcement people are known to be serious, sober individuals who would have a lot to lose were they to be associated with anything resembling kooky, outlandish beliefs. Nonetheless, they have taken the risk of revealing their experiences because they are convinced they have seen something objectively real that they consider important. All of these accounts are ignored by the media. Granted, the world of UFO belief has its share of kooks and nuts and fringe people, but have you ever listened to some of these religious, true believers? Have you ever heard of any extreme, bizarre behavior and outlandish claims associated with religious zealots? Could any of them be considered kooks, nuts, or dingbats? A fair person would have to say yes. But the marginal people in these two groups don't matter in this argument. What matters is the prejudice and superstition built into the media coverage of the two sets of beliefs. One is treated reverently and accepted as received truth. The other is treated laughingly and dismissed out of hand. As evidence of the above premise, I offer one version of a typical television news story heard each year on the final Friday of Lent. Today is Good Friday, observed by Christians worldwide as a day that commemorates the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, whose death redeemed the sins of mankind. Here is the way it should be written. Today is Good Friday, observed worldwide by Jesus buffs, as the day on which the popular bearded cultural figure, sometimes referred to as the Messiah, was allegedly crucified and, according to legend, died for mankind's so-called sins. Today kicks off a holy weekend that culminates on Easter Sunday, when it is widely believed this dead Savior, who also, by the way, claimed to be the son of a sky-dwelling invisible being known as God, mysteriously rose from the dead. According to the legend, by volunteering to be killed and actually going through with it, Jesus saved every person who has ever lived, and every person who will ever live, from an eternity of suffering in a fiery region popularly known as hell, providing, so the story goes, that the person to be saved firmly believes this rather fanciful tale. That would be an example of unbiased news reporting. Don't wait around for it to happen. The aliens will land first. I have a problem with the 10 Commandments. Here it is. Why are there 10? We don't need 10. I think the list of commandments was deliberately and artificially inflated to get it up to 10. It's clearly a padded list. Here's how it happened. About 5,000 years ago, a bunch of religious and political hustlers got together to figure out how they could control people and keep them in line. They knew people were basically stupid and would believe anything they were told, so these guys announced that God personally, had given one of them a list of 10 commandments that he wanted everyone to follow. They claimed the whole thing took place on a mountaintop when no one else was around. But let me ask you something. When these guys were sitting around the tent and making all this stuff up, why did they pick 10? Why 10? Why not 9 or 11? I'll tell you why. Because 10 sounds important. 10 sounds official. They knew if they tried 11, people wouldn't take them seriously. People would say, "What, are you kidding me? The 11 commandments? Get the fuck out of here." But 10 sounds important. 10 is the basis for the decimal system. It's a decade. It's a psychologically satisfying number. The top 10, the 10 most wanted, the 10 best dressed. So deciding on 10 commandments was clearly a marketing decision. And it's obviously a bullshit list. It's a political document, artificially inflated to sell better.